The icy Chicago wind blew as a reminder of the harsh winter enveloping the city. In a glass-walled office on the 25th floor of a downtown skyscraper, Alexander Hayes stared out at the horizon, the city lights flickering under a sky heavy with clouds. He held a glass of whiskey in his hand, though he didn't drink it. The drink was merely a silent companion to the thoughts that plagued him. Alexander had everything most people would consider a dream: wealth, recognition, and a name that opened doors in any social circle. But within him, there was an emptiness that even the luxuries of his life couldn't fill. The memory of his doctor's words, spoken years ago, still haunted him like a ghost. "Unfortunately, you won't be able to have children." The news had been a blow. He had never told anyone, not even his father, Richard Hayes. And now that absurd clause in his father's will weighed on him like a chain. The first of his children to give him a grandchild would inherit the entire family financial empire. The dinner that had sealed that declaration was still fresh in his memory. At the imposing mansion in Lake Forest, Richard, with his stern demeanor and firm voice, had made the announcement with the coldness of someone making a strategic decision. Next to Alex sat his younger brother, Christopher, with his enigmatic smile that always seemed to conceal something. The relationship between the two had never been easy, but now it had become an open competition. Back in his Chicago penthouse, Alex felt cornered. He knew Christopher had the upper hand. Married to a brilliant lawyer and expecting his first child, his brother was the embodiment of unchecked ambition. Alex's frustration turned to anger as he thought about how much his father valued the idea of a direct heir, as if it were a symbol of success. That night, unable to face the emptiness of his luxurious apartment, Alex grabbed his car keys and drove aimlessly through the rain-slicked streets. The sound of the windshield wipers and the blurred city lights reflected on the asphalt mirrored his dark mood. Then something caught his attention: a figure huddled under the awning of an old abandoned library. He stopped the car. Stepping out, Alex felt the biting cold of the night as he approached. There, under a thin, soaked blanket, was a young woman, pregnant. She looked frightened but too exhausted to react. "Hey, are you okay?" Alex asked, trying not to sound intimidating. The woman looked up, revealing blue eyes filled with desperation and exhaustion. I'm fine," she said, though the lie was obvious in her weak voice. Alex hesitated. He wasn't the type to get involved with strangers, but something about the scene made him stay. He noticed her prominent belly, the worn-out coat, and her pale lips. "You don't look fine," he insisted. "My car's just over there. Let me take you somewhere safe." "Why would you care?" she countered, wary but too drained to push him away. Alex hesitated before answering. He wasn't sure himself. Maybe it was the emptiness in his own life, or the weight of his situation. But something about her fragility stirred an instinct he didn't recognize. "Because I can help," he finally said, "and I think you need it right now." The young woman, after a long silence, nodded. Her name, Alex soon learned, was Lily Bennett, and her story was as heartbreaking as it seemed. Fleeing an abusive relationship and pregnant by a man who wanted nothing to do with the baby, Lily was alone in the world. Taking her to his penthouse was an impulsive decision, one Alex knew might complicate his life, but he couldn't leave her there. As the car pulled into the underground garage of his building, he noticed Lily looking around the luxurious interior with a mix of awe and discomfort. In the elevator, the silence between them was broken only by the soft hum of the motor. When they arrived, Alex opened the door, revealing the spacious and elegant interior of the apartment. "You can stay here as long as you need," he said, trying to sound casual. Lily looked at him, still wary, but there was gratitude in her eyes. "Why?" she asked again, almost reflexively. Alex took a deep breath. He knew he couldn't tell her the whole truth. Not yet. "Maybe I need help too," he replied cryptically. The connection between them had begun, even if neither of them knew where it would lead. The rain continued to patter against the apartment's panoramic windows as Lily, still cautious, took in her surroundings. The modern decor and custom-made furniture starkly contrasted with the simplicity of her previous life. It was hard to believe that just hours earlier, she had been sleeping on the streets. Now she found herself in a world that seemed far too distant to belong to her. Alex watched her closely, noticing her careful gaze. He understood that feeling. The world he lived in, with its galas, mansions, and exorbitant sums of money, was no less hostile than hers. It simply masked its brutalities with gold and crystal. "You're safe here," he said, trying to break the ice. "Do you need anything? Food? A shower?" Lily hesitated before nodding. A shower would be nice. Alex led her to one of the guest bedrooms. The adjoining bathroom was almost the size of the apartment Lily used to share with her mother before her life fell apart. He left clean towels and some comfortable clothes, a shirt and pants that were probably his, but would do for now. While Lily washed up, Alex returned to the living room, pouring himself another glass of whiskey. His mind was racing. Her presence had sparked an idea he knew was risky, but impossible to ignore. As wrong as it seemed, there was a chance she could be the solution to his dilemma. About half an hour later, Lily emerged. Now clean and wearing Alex's clothes, she looked more relaxed, though her face still carried the guarded expression of someone who had been on edge for too long. "Thank you," she said, her voice steadier than before. Alex nodded, motioning to the couch for her to sit. He knew he had to approach the topic carefully. "You said you were running away," he began, keeping his tone casual. Lily sighed. "It's a long story. The father of my child, She trailed off, looking away. "He was violent. When I found out I was pregnant, I knew I had to leave. I had nowhere to go. My mum died 2 years ago, and since then it's been a struggle." Alex listened intently, feeling a pang of empathy he hadn't felt in a long time. "And what do you plan to do now?" he asked. She shrugged, clearly without a clear answer. "Survive." The silence that followed was heavy, but Alex knew this was the moment. "What if I offered you something that could change everything?" Lily frowned, intrigued. "What do you mean?" Alex set his glass on the table and looked at her directly. "A deal. You pretend to be my fiancé, and that the baby is mine. In return, I'll give you safety, housing, anything you need." Lily's eyes widened in surprise and suspicion. "What? I know it sounds strange," Alex continued, trying to sound as convincing as possible, "but I have my reasons. My family, my father, to be specific, made an absurd demand. He wants a grandchild. The thing is," he hesitated, deciding to be partially honest, "I can't have children." Lily stared at him, clearly processing his words. "So you want me to pretend my baby is yours to fool your family?" she asked, her tone a mix of disbelief and indignation. Alex nodded, straightforward. "I know it's a lot to ask, but think about what this could mean for you. You'd have a comfortable life, a safe place to raise your child, and you'd never have to worry about money or the man you're running from again." Lily shook her head, confused and torn. "And what happens after the baby is born?" "We keep up the act for as long as necessary," Alex explained. "I won't abandon you or the baby. All I want is for my family to believe I'm building a family." For a moment, Lily stayed silent, trying to make sense of her emotions. The proposal was surreal, but there was a disturbing logic to it. Part of her wanted to refuse outright, but another part, the part exhausted from fighting alone, was considering the possibility. "Why should I trust you?" she finally asked. Alex met her gaze with seriousness. "Because I know what it feels like to be lost, and because, as selfish as this may seem, I want to help you as much as you can help me." Lily bit her lip, deep in thought. Alex's words carried weight. He seemed sincere, but it was hard to believe in good intentions after everything she had been through. "I need time to think," she said finally. Alex nodded, respecting her decision. "Tout bem. Take your time to think it through. Just know that, whatever your decision, you can stay here as long as you need." Lily thanked him with a slight nod, and the two spent the rest of the night in silence. While she settled into the guest room, Alex remained in the living room, staring out at the cityscape and wondering if he had crossed a dangerous line. The grey light of morning began to filter through the apartment's massive windows, casting the space in a cool, subdued glow. Lily woke up in the guest room, feeling the softness of the mattress, a stark contrast to the places she had been sleeping over the past few weeks. Yet the physical comfort wasn't enough to dispel the whirlwind in her mind. Alex's proposal echoed in her head, a ridiculous idea, yet oddly tempting. He was offering her safety, something she hadn't had in a long time. Still, there was one barrier: trusting a man she barely knew. As she dressed, the small life growing inside her stirred. Instinctively, Lily placed a hand on her belly, a gesture that always brought a mix of comfort and fear. Her child was the one certainty in her life, and any decision she made had to be for him. She left the room and found Alex in the kitchen. He was already dressed in a crisp dress shirt and tailored pants, always appearing ready for anything, even at this early hour. "Did you sleep well?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "Better than I have in weeks," Lily replied, taking a seat at the kitchen counter. Alex poured her a cup of tea, remaining silent for a moment. He knew she was still weighing his offer and didn't want to push her. Finally, she broke the silence. "Why do you trust that I won't just accept your help and disappear?" Alex smiled faintly, as if he'd been expecting the question. "I don't fully trust you, but sometimes you have to take risks." Lily pondered this. Alex's honesty was unsettling but also refreshing. He wasn't pretending that his proposal was anything more than a mutually beneficial arrangement. "And what happens if your family finds out this is all a lie?" she asked. Alex took a deep breath, as if carefully considering the consequences. "That's a risk I'm willing to take. My father is more concerned with the idea of legacy than digging into the details. As for my brother," he paused, as if thinking of Christopher. "He'll be suspicious, he always is, but if we're careful, we can keep him from finding out." Lily still seemed hesitant, but there was something about Alex that made her believe he was truly committed to his promises. The idea of stability and security for her baby was more tempting than she wanted to admit. After a long silence, she finally spoke. "I'll do it." Alex looked up, both surprised and relieved. "Are you sure?" "No," she admitted. "But like you said, sometimes you have to take risks." He smiled, a mixture of nervousness and relief. "Then we're in this together." In the days that followed, Alex began to make good on his side of the arrangement. He hired a stylist to design a wardrobe that was both elegant and comfortable for Lily. He consulted one of Chicago's top obstetricians to ensure she received the best medical care. Though still wary, Lily felt a sense of relief not having to worry about basic needs like food or shelter. Adjusting to this new lifestyle wasn't easy, though. She felt out of place in the luxurious settings Alex introduced her to. A charity dinner at a five-star hotel was the first real test. Wearing an elegant navy blue dress, Lily felt the curious stares of Chicago's elite. "Who is she?" someone whispered, barely masking their curiosity. Alex, ever attentive, placed a gentle hand on the small of Lily's back, guiding her confidently. "My fiancée, Lily," he said with an easy smile, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Lily tried to hold her ground, but it was clear she didn't belong in this world. Even so, she admired how Alex maneuvered through these interactions with ease, presenting her as someone significant, even if it was all a facade. When they returned to the apartment that night, Lily was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. "I don't know if I can keep doing this," she confessed, sinking onto the couch and kicking off her uncomfortable shoes. "Do you think so? Because I felt like they were seeing right through me the entire time. It's more than the money or the legacy. It's the only way to show my father I'm not the failure he always thought I was." Despite her initial reluctance, she found herself surprised by the patience he showed as he helped her integrate into his world. More than that, she noticed his genuine efforts to make things less daunting for her. Living with Lily and the prospect of being part of something bigger, even if it had started as a calculated plan, brought an unexpected warmth to his life. He knew these events were critical to reinforcing the narrative that they were building a family. "Who are you, Lily Bennett?" Christopher murmured, a satisfied smile spreading across his face. As they waited in the reception area, Lily fidgeted with her hands nervously. "Still think bringing me here was a bad idea?" she asked, trying to ease the tension. "Can I ask you something?" she said, her eyes fixed on the lake. With the dossier in hand, he planned to confront his brother directly, and if possible, derail Alex's strategy before he could take the lead in the race for the inheritance. "Good evening," Christopher greeted with his characteristic charm. "I'm Christopher Hayes, Alex Hayes' brother. Is he in?" The doorman quickly checked a list and made a phone call. "He's not in at the moment, sir." Christopher smiled, pretending not to mind. "No problem, I think I'll wait for him." With that, he entered the lobby, feigning interest in the artwork on the walls, though it was clear he had other plans in mind. Later, when Alex and Lily arrived at the apartment, they found Christopher sitting on the couch, appearing relaxed, but with cold eyes fixed on the two of them. "What a surprise," Alex said, forcing a smile. "Didn't mean to intrude, brother," Christopher replied, standing and extending a hand to Lily. "You must be Lily." Lily shook his hand hesitantly, immediately sensing the hostility behind his friendly facade. "Nice to meet you," she said, trying to sound natural. "The pleasure is mine. Alex hasn't stopped talking about you." Christopher lied, smiling almost theatrically. Alex took 2 steps forward, positioning himself between Lily and his brother. "What are you doing here, Christopher?" "I didn't know you were in Chicago." Christopher let out a short laugh. "I thought it was time for a family visit, and of course to meet your future wife." Lily felt the discomfort building, and Alex noticed. "Lily, why don't you go upstairs and rest a bit?" he suggested, attempting to sound casual. She hesitated but complied, casting a cautious glance at Christopher before disappearing down the hallway. Once alone, Alex faced his brother, crossing his arms. "What do you really want?" Christopher pulled a dossier from the bag he was carrying and tossed it onto the table. "I want to know who this woman is, who appeared out of nowhere and is suddenly helping you chase after the family empire." Alex looked at the dossier and then back at his brother, his eyes narrowing. "You hired someone to investigate Lily." Christopher shrugged. "Why not? We all know you don't do anything without a reason, so why would this be any different?" Alex felt anger rising but kept it in check. "And what are you planning to do with this?" Christopher smiled, but the smile was more of a warning than a friendly gesture. Haven't decided yet. But, Alex, your story better be very convincing. After Christopher left, the apartment felt charged with tension. Alex spent several minutes alone in the living room, staring at the dossier his brother had left on the table. He knew its contents could destroy everything he had built so far. Lily's past, laid out in detail, was a weapon Christopher wouldn't hesitate to use. When Alex finally went up to the guest room, he found Lily sitting on the edge of the bed, looking uneasy. She noticed his worried expression and immediately stood up. "What happened?" she asked, her voice tense. Alex hesitated before answering. "Christopher is suspicious. He hired someone to investigate you." Lily felt her stomach twist. She knew her past wasn't spotless, but being exposed like that felt more like a betrayal than anything else. "What did he find out?" Alex took the dossier he had brought with him and held it out to her. "See for yourself." Lily opened the document with trembling fingers. The photos and information were painfully familiar. Every page was a reminder of the struggles she had faced. Nights in shelters, free medical care, even police records about the man she had run away from. "He's going to use this against you, isn't he?" she asked, still processing the magnitude of the situation. Alex nodded. "He'll try, but I won't let him." Lily closed the file, her eyes fixed on the floor. "And what if he's right?" she murmured. "Right about what?" She lifted her gaze to him, her eyes brimming with tears. "About me not belonging in this world. I'm just a pregnant woman you found on the street." Alex stepped closer to her, his expression soft but firm. "No, you're much more than that. You're strong, intelligent, and resilient. And most importantly, you're the person I chose to stand by my side in this situation." Alex's words made Lily feel, for the first time, like she deserved to be there. Even though the arrangement was a lie, there was something genuine in what he had just said. "And what if he exposes everything?" she asked, still unsure. "He might try," Alex replied, "but if we work together, we can stop him." In the days that followed, Alex doubled down on efforts to strengthen the image of his relationship with Lily. He took her to more public events, introduced her to more influential people, and ensured every detail was perfect. One evening, after a dinner at an upscale restaurant, Alex noticed that Lily was growing more comfortable in her new role. She smiled with more confidence and managed to hold light-hearted conversations with the guests. Still, Christopher's threat loomed over them like a shadow. Alex knew his brother was biding his time, waiting for the perfect moment to act. "You're doing really well," Alex told Lily as they returned to the apartment. "This feels strange," she replied, gazing out the car window. "I never thought I'd be good at something like this." Alex smiled. "Maybe it's because you're starting to believe you deserve to be in this position." Lily looked at him surprised. "I don't know if I believe that yet." "Well, I do," Alex said firmly. She didn't respond, but the warmth she felt in her chest was enough to dispel some of her insecurities. A few days later, Richard Hayes summoned the family for another dinner in Lake Forest. Alex knew Christopher would seize the opportunity to advance his plans. In the grand dining room, adorned with crystal chandeliers and long velvet curtains, everyone was gathered. Richard, as always, sat at the head of the table, his scrutinizing gaze sweeping over each attendee. Christopher, seated next to his wife, wore a sly smile, clearly waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The dinner progressed normally, until during dessert, Christopher cleared his throat, drawing everyone's attention. "Alex, I must say, your fiancé is truly delightful," he began, his tone laced with false cordiality. Lily, seated next to Alex, remained composed, but could feel all eyes on her. "Thank you," Alex replied cautiously. "And it's so fascinating how you two met. So quickly too, wasn't it?" "It seems like," Christopher paused deliberately, "a stroke of luck." Alex narrowed his eyes, sensing the provocation. "Sometimes life works that way," he said, trying to keep his tone calm. Christopher leaned forward slightly, savoring the moment. Of course, but you know me, I like to be certain about things, so I did a little digging." The silence at the table was palpable. "And what did you find, Christopher?" Alex asked, his tone challenging. "I've discovered that your dear Lily is a fascinating woman. She's been through many challenges in life. I'd even say she had a rather humble beginning." Richard frowned, clearly intrigued by the conversation. "What are you talking about, Christopher?" Before Christopher could respond, Alex stood up, cutting him off. "He's talking about her past," Alex said, looking directly at his father. "Something that's irrelevant to what we're building together." Lily's heart raced, but she kept her composure. "Interesting how you're so protective of someone who just entered your life," Christopher mocked. "And interesting how you try to bring down everyone who seems happier than you," Alex retorted firmly. The verbal clash was interrupted by Richard, who raised his hand. "That's enough," he commanded, his deep voice echoing through the room. "This is a family dinner, not a courtroom." The silence that followed was heavy. Christopher leaned back in his chair, clearly displeased, while Alex and Lily exchanged a quick glance, relieved to have overcome yet another battle. But they both knew the war was far from over. After the tense dinner, Alex and Lily returned to Chicago, carrying the weight of the confrontation with Christopher. In the quiet of the car, Lily stared out the window, lost in thought. Alex, at the wheel, seemed equally absorbed in his reflections. When they arrived at the apartment, Alex tossed his keys onto the table and sighed deeply. "I'm sorry about that," he said, breaking the silence. Lily shook her head. "You don't have to apologize. We knew this could happen." Alex ran a hand through his hair, visibly frustrated. "Christopher has always been like this. He doesn't care who he hurts, as long as he gets what he wants." Lily watched him intently. For the first time, she didn't see the cold, calculating businessman, but the older brother who had always borne the burden of leading a dysfunctional family. "Do you think he'll give up?" Lily asked. "No," Alex replied, "but he won't succeed in destroying what we're trying to build." Lily felt a pang in her chest at his words. Initially, what they were building had been a lie, a cold, calculated agreement, but now she wasn't so sure anymore. The connection between them was growing, and it left her confused. "Alex," she began hesitantly, "what do you really want from all this? I mean, besides proving something to your father?" Alex was silent for a moment, reflecting. "At first, that's all it was. Proving that I wasn't a failure, that I could be more than he ever thought I could be." He paused, looking at her. "But now, I think I'm starting to see things differently." Lily's heart raced, but she looked away, trying to keep her own feelings in check. "I just hope this doesn't end up hurting you," she said softly. "And I hope this doesn't end up hurting you," Alex replied, a gentle smile on his face. The following week, Alex decided it was time to take Lily back to the family estate in Lake Forest, but this time with a clear objective: to solidify their relationship in Richard's eyes and show that Christopher didn't have the power to destabilize them. The mansion was stunning that day, decorated for a smaller event with only the closest family members present. Richard seemed more reserved, observing Alex and Lily interact attentively, but without his usual critical remarks. "It seems you found someone special," Richard commented to Alex during a private moment. Alex felt the weight of the words. His father rarely complimented anything or anyone, much less his own son. "Lily is different," Alex replied. "She's genuine." Richard raised an eyebrow. "Sincerity is a rare commodity in our family." Meanwhile, Lily was in the garden gazing at the estate's lake. She felt uneasy under the guests' stares, but found a moment of peace in the serene setting. Christopher, however, didn't miss the chance to approach her. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" he said, suddenly appearing by her side. Lily didn't respond immediately, but felt the same discomfort that always accompanied his presence. "What do you want, Christopher?" He laughed, feigning indignation. "I'm just trying to get to know the woman who managed to tame my brother." Lily crossed her arms, staring at him. "You don't believe that, do you? Honestly?" "No," he admitted, his tone more serious now. "But I'll figure out what you're hiding." Lily held her ground. "Go ahead and try. But it won't change the fact that Alex is light years ahead of you. Not because he wants the inheritance, but because he has something you don't." "And what's that?" Christopher asked, defiant. "Empathy," Christopher laughed. But something in his expression suggested Lily's words had hit their mark. Later that evening in their apartment, Lily told Alex about her encounter with Christopher in the garden. "He's not going to give up," she said. "I know," Alex replied, "but maybe it's time to face him once and for all." Lily looked at him, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe it's time to tell the truth," Alex said, with a determination that caught her off guard. Lily fell silent, trying to process what he had just said. "Alex, this could destroy everything, or it could set us free," he said, moving closer. "I don't want to live under the weight of lies anymore. I don't want to keep playing this dirty game my father and Christopher created." Lily felt a wave of conflicting emotions. Part of her wanted to believe the truth could be enough, but another part feared the consequences. "Are you willing to lose everything?" she asked. Alex met her gaze, his eyes sincere. "If losing everything means having a chance to start over, then yes." The next morning, Alex did something he never thought he'd do. He called Richard and requested a meeting with the entire family. It would be the moment to lay everything bare and accept the consequences. "Are you sure about this?" Lily asked before they left. Alex held her hand, a smile on his face that blended nervousness with resolve. "No, but we'll find out together." As they prepared to face the Hayes family, they both knew this moment would define not only their future, but also what it truly meant to love, take risks, and rebuild a life. The Hayes Mansion's meeting room in Lake Forest was an imposing space, with walls lined in dark wood, leather chairs, and a central chandelier that seemed to amplify every word spoken there. It was where Richard Hayes made his most important decisions, and now it would serve as the stage for a revelation that could change everything. Alex and Lily arrived together, their hands intertwined, a gesture that seemed natural but concealed the whirlwind of emotions they both felt. Christopher was already there, wearing a triumphant expression, his wife at his side. Richard, seated at the head of the table, waited silently as curiosity and tension swirled among those present. "So," Richard began, his deep voice cutting through the air, "what was so urgent that it required a family meeting?" Alex glanced at Lily, who gave him a subtle nod. He took a deep breath before standing. "Dad, I need to tell the truth," he began, his eyes moving across the room to meet everyone's gaze. "And I know that after this, everything might change drastically." Christopher leaned back in his chair, clearly ready to savor what he thought would be his brother's downfall. "That sounds interesting," said Christopher, with a smile dripping with sarcasm. "Please do go on." Alex ignored his brother's remark and turned back to face their father. "The truth is, Lily and I..." He paused, feeling the weight of each word. "We're not exactly what we appear to be." Richard's eyes narrowed and a wave of murmurs swept through the room. Lily, standing next to Alex, squeezed his hand, trying to convey strength. "What do you mean by that?" Richard asked, his tone controlled but clearly intrigued. Alex took a deep breath again. "When I brought Lily into my life, it was because I knew I couldn't meet the terms of your will. I can't have children. I found out years ago and never told anyone." The room fell completely silent. Even Christopher seemed momentarily at a loss for words. "So, you brought this woman here to lie to me?" Richard's voice was sharper now. Before Alex could respond, Lily stepped in, her voice firm but filled with emotion. "It wasn't an easy decision, Mr. Hayes. When Alex found me, I was at the lowest point of my life. He offered me security, and I accepted because I wanted to protect my son." Richard's eyes locked onto her, assessing her words. Lily continued, "But over time I realized this wasn't just an arrangement anymore. Alex isn't the man I thought he was at the beginning. He's so much more. He cares, he protects, and he does everything he can to help the people he loves." Alex looked at her, surprised by the sincerity and passion in her words. Lily turned back to face Richard. "I know this isn't the family you envisioned, but it's real, even if it started in an imperfect way." Richard was silent for several long moments, his gaze shifting from Alex to Lily, then to Christopher, who still seemed to be processing what he had just heard. Finally, the patriarch stood, walking slowly to the window. He looked out at the mansion's gardens, as if reflecting on every decision that had led him to this moment. "I created that clause," he began, still looking outside, "because I wanted to ensure my children understood the importance of continuity, of legacy. But in doing so, I see now that I created an environment of competition and resentment." He turned to face Alex. "You could have told me about your condition. You didn't need to fabricate this charade." Alex shook his head, feeling the weight of his father's words. "Maybe, but I was afraid of disappointing you. I always thought I'd never measure up." Richard approached him, his expression softening for the first time. "I'm a hard man, Alex, and I think I've always expected too much from you. But today you did something few would have the courage to do. You told the truth, even knowing you might lose everything." He then turned to Christopher. "And you, what do you have to say? Hiring an investigator to dig into Lily's life, is that how you think you build a family?" Christopher opened his mouth to respond but shut it again, speechless. Richard let out a long sigh. "Maybe I failed as a father, fostering this rivalry between you two, but it ends here." He looked around at everyone in the room, his voice taking on an authoritative tone. "I'm going to rewrite my will. No more absurd clauses. What matters is that you support each other as a family, not tear each other apart." Back at their apartment, Alex and Lily sat on the couch, exhausted but relieved. What had seemed like the end of everything had turned out to be a new beginning. "I didn't expect that reaction from your father," Lily admitted. "Neither did I," Alex replied with a faint smile. "But I think, deep down, all he ever wanted was something we never managed to be, a united family." Lily looked at Alex, overwhelmed with emotion. For the first time in a long while, she felt no fear, and she knew that despite everything, she had found someone who truly saw her for who she was. "Thank you," she said, holding his hand. "For what?" Alex asked, genuinely curious. "For giving me a chance to start over, and for believing in me, even when I couldn't believe in myself." Alex smiled, gripping her hand firmly. "I think you did the same for me." As the city of Chicago glittered beyond the windows, Alex and Lily knew that no matter what the future held, they had found something: money, inheritance or status could never buy each other. The days following the Hayes mansion meeting brought a sense of relief but also uncertainty. Alex and Lily understood there was still much to adjust in their lives. The truth was out, and with Richard's promise to revise the will, the game of rivalries seemed to have reached its end. Even so, Alex still felt the weight of years spent trying to prove his worth to his father. He spent more time at his jewelry office, reorganizing his thoughts and focusing on new projects, a way to process the changes. Lily, on the other hand, was adapting to the role of someone who, for the first time in a long while, could build a stable future. The feeling was so new that at times she questioned whether she deserved it all. That evening, while dining together in the apartment, Alex broke the silence. "Have you thought about what you'll do after the baby's born?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Lily hesitated before responding. "To be honest, I don't know. I've gotten so used to living on the fly that I can't quite imagine what stability will feel like." Alex watched her, sensing the weight she still carried, even as things seemed to be improving. "Maybe you don't have to decide now," he said. "We can figure it out together." Lily looked up at him, surprised. "You mean stay with me after all this?" Alex nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "I know we started this as an arrangement, but I can't deny that things have changed. You've changed my life, Lily, and honestly, I don't want this to end." Lily's heart raced. She knew she had developed feelings for Alex, but hearing those words left her momentarily speechless. "Alex, She hesitated, trying to organize her thoughts. "I feel like something's changed too, but I don't know if I can trust that this is real." Alex reached out, holding her hand. "I don't know how to prove it's real, but I'm willing to try." Weeks passed, and the baby's due date grew closer. Now, 9 months pregnant, Lily was surrounded by care. Alex had hired a nurse to assist her and ensured everything was ready for the baby's arrival. On a chilly winter morning, while Lily rested in the apartment, the contractions began. Labor wasn't immediate, but intense enough for Alex to spring into action. He rushed her to the hospital where doctors and nurses were already prepared. The hours dragged on. Alex, seated in the waiting room, couldn't hide his anxiety. Though he wasn't the baby's biological father, the moment felt just as significant to him as it did to Lily. Finally, a nurse appeared at the door. "You can come in now." When Alex entered the room, he found Lily holding the baby in her arms. Her eyes were glistening with tears, but her face shone with happiness. "It's a boy," she said with a tired smile. Alex approached, gazing at the tiny being wrapped in a blue blanket. The baby looked so fragile, so perfect, that something inside Alex shifted. "He's beautiful," Alex said, his voice full of emotion. Lily looked up at him. "Alex, I want you to be a part of his life. No matter how this started, you're already the most important person to both of us." Alex held her hand, feeling a lump in his throat. "I promise I'll always be here, for you and for him." A few days after the baby's birth, Alex received an unexpected visitor at the hospital. "Christopher, can I come in?" he asked, his tone more subdued than usual. Alex nodded, though he remained cautious. Christopher approached, gazing at the baby sleeping peacefully in Lily's arms. "He's beautiful," Christopher said with a faint smile. Lily thanked him, still cautious. Christopher turned to Alex, and for a moment, the atmosphere felt heavy. "I went too far," Christopher admitted, breaking the silence. "Not just with you, but with her too." Alex was surprised, but kept a neutral expression. "What changed?" he asked. Christopher shrugged, looking uncomfortable. "Maybe I realized I was fighting for something that didn't matter as much as I thought it did. I saw how you both handled everything, and I realized I'd never have the courage to do the same." Alex was silent for a moment before responding. "I think deep down we all wanted the same thing, to be recognized by our father." Christopher nodded. "Maybe now we can try to do things differently." Alex gave a slight smile. "Maybe." In the months that followed, Alex and Lily established a routine that for the first time felt genuine. They decided to name the baby together, choosing Ethan, a name that symbolized strength and hope. Richard became a devoted grandfather, visiting often and, to everyone's surprise, showing a more human and caring side. The relationship between Alex and Lily also evolved. What began as a partnership forged out of necessity was now turning into something real. They decided to get married in a small ceremony, attended only by close friends and family. On their wedding day, as Lily walked toward Alex, holding Ethan in her arms, she felt that for the first time in years she had found a home. Alex, seeing her, knew that despite all the complications and challenges, he was finally experiencing something money could never buy, a life full of meaning. The new Hayes family wasn't perfect, but it was united. Over time, Alex and Lily transformed the Hayes empire into more than just numbers and wealth. They invested in social projects, supported young entrepreneurs, and worked to build a legacy that reflected what they had learned together, that true wealth lies in the bonds we create and the love we choose to nurture. If this story touched your heart, share your thoughts in the comments. What would you do in Alex or Lily's place? Do you believe love and trust can overcome even the toughest circumstances? Share your reflections and show that there's always room for second chances and new beginnings. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and follow us for more moving stories published almost daily. Check out the links on the screen to discover more incredible stories waiting for you.